Welcome everyone for joining our webinar today here at I-95 Dev. The main topic of the webinar will be Magento 1 to Magento 2 migration made easy. We'd like to thank you, of course, for taking time out of your day to join us. This has definitely been a hot topic, and I believe it should be remaining as a hot topic the next few months, as most of our clients as well as Magento users are finding that Magento 2 has been a wonderful platform thus far. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. In this presentation, we're going to be talking about 5 main things. We'll start off with just doing quick introductions. Then we'll jump into why we need to prepare for the future and how Magento 2 can help. What are the benefits of Magento 2? It being the next generation commerce. And then we'll jump right into the migration process. Now, with the migration process, what's the best practices behind it? What we've seen has worked time and time and again to help save time and cost. And then, of course, we'll also talk about how I-95 can help you out with the migration process. Now, with that being said, if you have any questions along the way, please go ahead and jot them down. I don't want you to forget the questions. So definitely please go ahead and write them down, because at the end of the webinar, we will be having a question and answer period. Now this webinar is a little bit special. We have a special guest joining us here. He's one of our partners that we've worked with for years now, and we'll just jump right into introductions. He's actually one of our partners, as I mentioned. He works with Nectar Bridge. So I'd like to give a nice warm welcome to Gary. Gary, please, if without further ado, if you please introduce yourself, give us a little bit of background, and then I'll jump into introducing myself. I'm not that important, so.
I'm not that important either, Hazel, but I appreciate the introduction. As Hazel said, I am doing some work with I-95 to help spread the word, help market, and help talk to people about Magento. And I think the hot topic, as we discussed, is Magento 1 to Magento 2 conversion, replatforming, whatever you want to call it. It's the thing that everybody needs to be working on, because it's going to hit us quicker than we think. Mid-year 2020, end of life for Magento 1 it's going to put a crunch on us if we don't get something done. So I've been talking to my clients, my prospects about that, and really happy to be part of this discussion today.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Gary. And again, welcome. We look forward to your expertise and what you can share with us a little bit later on during the webinar. Now, myself, I've been in the industry. I work with I-95 Dev. I'm their enterprise sales executive, and I've been in the industry now for about 16 years. Some of my specialized industries and places that I work with is the manufacturing systems and distributions, both B2B and B2C. And really my focus with I-95 Dev is to help customers build an effective and efficient e-commerce solution as a whole. So why don't we go ahead and just jump right into a little bit about I-95 Dev. We've been around now for almost 20 years. As you can see, we are a next generation e-commerce company. With that being said, we have solutions that specialize in Magento, consulting, design, development, integration, and of course support. We have over 170 employees all over the world. We also have over 180 happy clients. As you can see, our footprint's pretty large here. We have offices all over from New Jersey, New York, Texas, Australia, and of course Hyderabad, India. We are, of course, a Magento solution partner and a Microsoft partner. Sage, we've been featured in the Inc. 5000, and of course, we are an SAP partner as well. Now let's talk about why we need to prepare for the future. We're just going to talk a little bit about high level here. Now we know that there are changes in buying patterns and habits among our clients. As a matter of fact, technology today has a profound impact on how people are shopping. Just think about yourself. When you shop, what are your expectations when you go into either a store or an online store. With that being said, 75% of consumers now have purchased the product because they saw it on social media. I, being one of the 75%, is guilty of that as well. Now, with that being said, 75% is a really high number. We can no longer neglect the impact social media has when it comes to marketing. That's the reason why today companies spend huge amount of money on marketing on social media. They also do marketing, both organic and paid channels, when it comes to social media. And the reason being is because, again, they want to leverage on where their clients are looking at, right? They want to see exactly, they want to be there and be seen when their clients are there. Now, with that being said, to further that, we'll go ahead and jump right into a few other examples. Users today, they're also not just looking to social media, but they're also looking at now shopping on Amazon and other websites with great, amazing user experiences. Now, with that being said, if you're on Amazon, you know how easy it is to purchase on there, or you've experienced a website that has amazing user experiences, that has easy checkout, one-click checkouts, easy tracking for your products. When you go to another website, you're expecting the same. Now, with that being the main expectation, unfortunately, large e-commerce companies have to spend tons and tons and tons of money and invest in the best brains, IT, developers in the business to try to build this experience, to have that same experience that Amazon can provide. Unfortunately, though, it's a bit harder when it comes to small or medium-sized companies. Now, of course, there is a way. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We can definitely, as a small or medium-sized company, you can absolutely have that same user experience too, but you can't do it with an outdated system. That's the main reason why we're going to be talking about how Magento 2 can really leverage and help those small to medium-sized businesses have that same user experience that maybe a larger business have invested tons of money to create for their customers. Now, a few other reasons why we need to prepare for the future, if you haven't already done so or understood, is that Google prioritizes websites that are mobile compatible. So again, if your website is not mobile compatible, Google puts you literally in the back of the list. You need to make sure that your website has the mobile compatibility so that when clients and customers are searching for your products, you are definitely going to trigger that Google search bar. All right, now let's go ahead and jump into, again, what are some of the bigger differences on, preparing for the future, what Magento 1 has. Now, without it being said, Magento 1 definitely has been around for quite some time now. As a matter of fact, if you're on Magento 1, you definitely know how powerful that platform is. As a matter of fact, many larger businesses have built their business and has been successful using the Magento 1 platform. Some of those businesses, I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with them. They're very popular: Coca-Cola, Ford, Olympus Cameras, Nike. Those are just a few of businesses that's definitely driven their companies on a Magento 1 platform. And the reason being is because those businesses, they wanted a platform that had flexible code, rich features, fluid designs. They wanted easy integrations. They wanted rapid scalability, hosting flexibility. And all of that Magento 1 can definitely provide. But with that being said, the platform for Magento 1 is still not suitable for today's modern requirements. And the reason why it's not suitable for today's modern requirements is because today, online store owners are looking for operational flexibility. They're also looking for tools to build the world-class user experience. Mobile commerce is huge. They need to have that for mobile commerce. And of course, they also are looking for support when they are rapidly scaling without, of course, burning cash. So again, these are just some of the features. We'll be jumping more into the features of Magento 2 later on during the presentation. with that being said, with Magento 2, you're definitely going to have the better shopping experiences. You're going to have the greater conversion rates, outstanding performance, and of course, you're going to have smarter, faster operations as technology derives and starts to build. They're building all of these aspects into Magento 2. Now, instead of us actually talking about these features, and mind you, again, we're going to be talking about these features a little bit more. What I'd like to do next is really go into and speak to someone who's used both Magento 1 and Magento 2, and of course, has experience with both platforms. Again, I'd like to invite Gary back onto the podium here, quote unquote podium. And Gary, if you're okay with it, I'd like to ask, I know that you've been a merchant as well, and as a merchant on Magento 1, what are some of the key features that you've seen, comparing both Magento 1 and Magento 2 as a merchant?
Right. And really all of my experience as a merchant was on Magento 1. I was involved in the screen printing and embroidery industry doing company stores. So for example, if a company had employees all over the country and they needed to provide embroidered items to all of those people all over the place, we developed stores that let those employees do that. Also items for members and a membership organization and that kind of thing. So I was actually, I did some of that even before Magento was around and was converted to Magento in the early days. And the things that I would focus on that I wished in the early days we had and that are now there on Magento 2, so, point out the advantages, is ability to create products, first of all, just simply creating products using the full suite of editing tools that we've all gotten used to on all kinds of different content platforms. I remember in the early days with Magento, just literally typing in HTML to create a product description, which is just, that's just nuts nowadays. So we don't need to be doing that anymore. The ability to change up a product page, as we sometimes need to really showcase a particular product, was really lacking in Magento 1. And thing about extending capability with Magento 1 is adding extensions. We added a lot of extensions to our stores to do things that are just under the hood now.
Yeah.
And as everybody knows who's dealt with a Magento installation, that's sometimes necessary, but the more you do that, the more problems you're going to tend to create. So those were some of the things that I was really missing in the days when I was a merchant that Magento 2 addresses, and I really haven't even gotten to B2B functions. So when I'm talking to people about selection of a shopping cart, the ability to customize the shopping cart with little or no coding to suit the business workflow that they have is what's just really exciting about Magento 2.
Yeah, absolutely. You've brought out some amazing points there, from really the ease of use of Magento 2, the code base of Magento 2, and some of the old ways of doing things. So thank you for bringing those up. At the same time, Gary, I know you, again, you were speaking as a merchant, right, using it. Now that you're working with your clients, and for lack of better words, we know, sure, upgrade to Magento 2, make more money, blah, blah, blah. But really, besides making more revenue, of course, obviously, that's the key and why we all want to drive more clients and customers to our websites and all that good stuff. But besides that, that is absolutely 110% important. What are some other features or maybe, key factors that you think as a consultant now And what do you talk to your clients about besides, obviously making more money?
Well, you've hit on a really good point, Hazel, which is that as marketing people ourselves, I think we tend to focus on the idea that you install some new software or you set up a new environment and it will increase your sales. And that's certainly a realistic promise to make with Magento 2. But in addition to that, you've also got just operational cost. If just thinking like an accountant here for a second, you have revenue minus your cost, and that's what you're left with. That's your profit. So it's the operational expense of maintaining an aging system that I think needs to be examined really carefully. That's what I encourage prospects to look at, is what is the cost of maintaining an aging environment? And it's not just the things you directly think of in terms of an IT spend, like what you're spending on developers and so on, but the operational expense, what's going on every day when you're actually fulfilling orders, how and what's going on every day when you're creating new products and trying to get new things to market. I mean, for example, you're trying to set up a sale, or you're trying to set up if you're a B2B merchant, trying to set up a program so that a new customer can order online and do that in the way they need to for their business workflow. Just the cost of doing something manually because you can't really set it up efficiently online, or the cost of handling orders if your system doesn't really allow you to do it in the best way possible. I honestly think we need to focus more on that in the industry, because we don't really talk about the physical process of logistics and fulfilling orders and setting orders up for sale as much as I think we should.
Yeah. Yep, you're exactly on point there, and that's a great point that you bring up. The cost that's behind, quote unquote, behind the scenes, right? If we're bringing in the revenue, we also want to focus on the cost, which of course, in the end game, brings more revenue and more income within each company that's actually working with e-commerce. So thank you for that. Gary, it's been a pleasure to pick your brain today. And I know you'll be on the rest of the day, the rest of the webinar. So of course, if you feel like you'd like to jump in and add on to a couple points that I'm doing or I'm talking about here, please go ahead and do so. But thank you again for joining us. Again, this is Gary Smith from Nectar Bridge. And he is a consultant that's been working with us and with some of our clients.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yep, absolutely. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. So, just a couple of parts that I want to highlight is Magento 2, you're going to have the tools, the modern tools to build the experience. One of the biggest issues today that every e-store owner is trying to combat and battle is cart abandonment. And there's really not one way to fix cart abandonment. You have to make sure really that you have the features that within your e-commerce platform that can provide help in regards to giving that user experience to your clients so that they don't abandon that cart. And then if they do abandon that cart, is your platform intuitive enough to know to go back to those clients and reach out to them and maybe give them specials and nudge them to come back and finish their purchase? So again, tools that Magento 2 definitely has. Of course, store performance and building that dream experience within Magento 2 is definitely more easier, as Gary has mentioned during his interview there. So some of the key differentiators I'd like to point out really, and again, Gary kind of touched base on a few of them, so I'll just really quickly highlight them. Again, when you're working with Magento 2 over Magento 1, some of the key features is the page builder that Magento 2 has. It gives you full access to, and that a non-technical person can go in on the interface and just build assets without having any hassles. which again, that's going to bring down your cost and reduce dependencies and of course the time. So costs, dependencies, and time to create these simple assets. You no longer have to write long coding, but instead it's a full page. You have drag and drop capability, so you have faster time to market, and of course it's configurable. Another hot topic besides upgrading or migrating to Magento 2 is the modern themes as well as PWA support. Almost every single one of our clients who come to us looking for a Magento platform has heard of PWA, and rightfully so. PWA, Progressive Web Apps, is definitely one of the hottest topics that's out now. Why? Well, number one, you don't have to build an app, and those apps, that support Android and iOS platforms are of course, again, going back to the costly side. Not only are they costly, but they also take money to maintain. As Android and iOS platforms update, you also have to update your app. Now with a PWA, it acts as if an app, but you're not building that. It's actually part of your e-commerce site. It also sits on your desktop or your mobile phone as an app. So you'll see a little logo of your store right there. It also works offline. So that in itself, if your clients are trying to purchase something and they click on your PWA icon, they'll be able to purchase without having to be online. And then that will still proceed and transfer to your store. So again, PWA is another hot topic, which Magento 2 supports. And it's the next generation moving forward. We need to keep on top of those aspects. Not only do you have PWA and themes, but you also have marketplaces. Not only do you have marketplaces that you need to be able to connect to and be part of, but the drop shipping and omni-channel experience has also risen to importance, where now you need to be able to build that platform that can address those requirements. And again, an e-commerce modern platform can easily take in and handle drop shipping and omni-channel presence with PWA. Unfortunately, while Magento 1 is a great platform, it cannot handle those specific features that we just talked about. And let's again jump right back into social media. Social media is now about building a relationship. As your customers see you on social media and see your posts, there's items now and social media stores where a customer can now have a shopping experience, and you can now build a tool like a social store where they can buy directly onto the social media stores. Again, you're leveraging on the power of what social media has. Of course, you also have microblogging within social media that kind of follows off course the ongoing trends, and of course the shopping experiences. Now you can still do, as Gary said, a lot of these features with outdated older platforms, but in order to do that, it's going to be extremely tedious. You're going to take a really long time, and most importantly, it's very costly. So because of those three aspects, it's really hard to find value to use an older platform, where in fact, these features come easily, readily available on Magento 2. All right, so let's go ahead and go into a few other aspects on here. I'm just highlighting a few things that you see here. Another aspect that Magento 2 has over Magento 1 is that Magento 1, you only had typically one type of hosting, versus Magento 2, you now have Magento Commerce Cloud. So you can now distance yourself from the headaches of maintaining and keeping uptime on your website by leveraging Magento Commerce Cloud. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next aspect. Now we're going into the migration process. We have to look at the journey of the migration process and what are some of the best practices. Highlighted, the first thing you have to do, of course, is to make sure that we have these 5 main steps. Now we've found with our migrating and helping and upgrading, whatever, as Gary said, whatever you want to call it, from Magento 1 to Magento 2, it's important to have these 5 items. The first thing is you have to create a blueprint of your current Magento installation. You wouldn't build a house without a blueprint, without knowing exactly how many rooms or items or sizes or costs. So creating a blueprint of your existing Magento installation and upgrading and the upgrade is really important, so that it gives you the bigger picture. And then, of course, after that, you want to go ahead and lay the foundation of your migration project. With that being said, you'll list your new platform needs, what it needs, what customizations are needed on the new platform, etc. Then you start building the framework of your new Magento platform. You're now creating a fresh instance. Your data cleanup is starting to happen. When that's probably one of the first things you're going to do on your new platform. And then, of course, you're going to make the necessary changes and requirements when it comes to extensions. So all of these fall in building your new framework. And then, of course, you're now giving it shape. So all of these additional items, getting rid of extensions, this is where you start to see your website actually come to life. And then the last is your final touches. The last step is really just performing the few final touches. And then, of course, this is where the actual migration happens, where you stop using Magento 1 store and then you make Magento 2 store live. Now, we're going to look at these steps in a little bit more detail. Let's go ahead and highlight creating a blueprint and exactly what happens within creating a blueprint. Now, first of all, when you're creating a blueprint, again, this is key when you're starting your project. You never want to go into a project blind. You want to understand exactly what it takes, the time it takes, and of course the cost it takes. So older versions of Magento especially Magento 1, can be highly customized to suit the requirements of the eStore. So in that sense, every Magento store is really unique. So with that being said, the online store owners must create a virtual map of their entire Magento platform, basically trying to recognize all the code level changes needed to make the platform, and of course migrate that platform to Magento 2. Then comes, again, the extensions. Most companies, as Gary mentioned, especially on Magento 1, has installed tons and tons of extensions to make their store, user-friendly and the aspects that they're needing from that store. But they also forget to remove those extensions once they become redundant. So during this blueprint phase, that's when we kind of examine those extensions. And if it's important to identify which extensions are being used regularly. And then, of course, this is also a great time to see if we need to replace those extensions with some native features that already come on Magento 2. All right, so now that you've created that blueprint, taking a look at the migration process as a whole, it's now time to go ahead and lay the foundation. Now the foundation really relies on your data. It depends on how complex your data is within your current store. And basically, with that being said, you need to be able to consolidate the data, and clean up data is a major undertaking and must be done with extreme care. Once you finish with your data cleanup, it's now important, again, looking at your extensions, which extensions are important to keep, which extensions are you going to be getting rid of, which extensions might be slowing down the platform is also important. And then, of course, once you're migrating to Magento 2, which extensions, again, are basically a current feature already in Magento 2. All right, now that we have all those steps in the foundation, it's now time to build your framework. Now, building the framework starts with creating a new instance on Magento 2 on staging. Once the staging is ready, you're now starting to clean up your data. As mentioned before, depending on how complicated your data cleanup may be, you can now go ahead and start to build and bring in that data within your Magento 2 platform. This is where we also define the different categories, such as product groups, product types, and of course, this can be done both manually or through a mass update, depending on how complicated your structure is. And then next we move into the basic settings, which needs to be defined within Magento. Settings like taxes, shipping details, and other information. This is the time where we're putting all this information into the framework of your Magento 2 instance. Next, you want to give it shape. Okay. In this stage, this is where your actual store is now starting to look like a store. You're starting to see your final product. And of course, you're now importing your themes into the platform. Mind you, your Magento 2 store theme might not look exactly like your old store, but of course, it'll look much better. Since the code base is different, some elements may also be different on your Magento 2. But with that being said, this is now the time, of course, to give your store, your new store, a nice and introduce a nice, fresh, intuitive look to your clients on the Magento 2 store. Now, once those changes are done, your data is now cleaned up and it's on the platform. You now have to go ahead and check for any errors. Your store is tested and tested again to make sure that these errors are recognized at an early stage. And then once all of those are in place and is tested, it's now into a time to evaluate the extensions and install the extensions. Of course, again, mentioning that the dormant extensions will be replaced with Magento's features or just be done away with the dormant features that we have. Some of the extensions that you may be using as well may not be available within the Magento 2 platform. Something to keep in mind, if there is an extension that is not available within the Magento 2 platform, that can also be customized within the interface, of course, by the partner and agency that you're working with. Now, the last point is to give the final touches. At this point, your store is pretty much ready. There's some peripheral aspects that probably need to be taken care of, but pretty much your store is ready. You now have to take a look at some of your website and your SEO elements so that your SEO elements are in place so that the bots can crawl your website and of course find your website. While these elements are in most scenarios are really important when it comes to content migration, some missing pieces can and needs to be completed and identified. Also, if you're having problems, another side note, with some traffic, whether it's organic traffic, and you're finding that you have to pay some extra attention or extra money when it comes to ads and having a hard time with your Google ads and having to pay extra money on that, you might want to take a look at your SEO. Again, that's something that with I-95 Dev, we definitely work very good with SEO, so you can always email us and ask us on how we can help with your SEO and ad quality of your store. All right. Once everything is done and you have all of that in place, it's now time to point your new domains IP to your new store. And in the first few days, your store needs to be monitored very cautiously to avoid any unforeseen consequences. And of course, once your store is live, you need to recrawl and re-index the entire site again. This is, again, something that we absolutely do, and you can, of course, contact us if you need any help in regards to doing this. Now, of course, as you can see with the approach that we have, the in-depth approach that we have in migrating your Magento 1 store to your Magento 2 store, the approach is also very, very important. As you can see, this is one of many approaches, but this is the way we like to do it. And the reason being is because everything is analyzed up in the front and that we start with a full discovery process. And this is where we basically have a full immersion within your business, with the client. And this is not just an information gathering session, but instead we look at what you're looking for as a customer, the features that you may have now, and of course, the features that you're looking for in the future. This will give us an opportunity to approach the problem and your migration with a more elegant solution. And then, of course, we move into the analysis phase. The analysis phase, we look at your current code base, your extensions, your future plans, and then this will also help us scope out the project and then bring us into the strategic planning phase. Once we have all of the information, we've completed the discovery, the analysis, then we go into the planning. And then within the planning, we take a look at all the information that we've collected, and then we give suggestions on how to go about the migration process, what extensions to use, what extensions to keep, what customizations are important, and what customizations should you go with, or maybe what customizations need to be done. So that will also be highlighted within the planning stage as well. Now that we know that this is the approach, we've talked a little bit about the migration process. Let's talk about now the benefit. You know, this is only one of many stores that we've helped in regards to the migrating from Magento 1 to Magento 2. And Gourmet Egypt is a major premium online grocery store in Egypt. It's a popular store that serves clients or their customers who are looking for premium grocery items. Now, they were steadily growing on the Magento 1 platform, but they realized that they needed more. And unfortunately, because they needed more, the Magento 1 platform was unable to give them the flexibility and the growth and the flexibility they needed to handle that growth. So with that, when we help them migrate to Magento 2 and upgrade their store, these are some of the astounding numbers that they were able to accomplish. As you can see here, 89% increase in sales over the previous year. You also have 99.85% decrease in spam and junk traffic moving into Magento 2. That in itself is a huge, huge feature. And of course, 50% improvement on page load time. As a matter of fact, the e-commerce technical manager said, after the achievements we've had with Magento 1 version, we decided to move to Magento 2, which was more reliable, stable, secure, and customizable. It was a very good choice to choose Magento 2 Enterprise, and it also helped us improve our sales and performance over our Magento 1 store. Amazing numbers and an amazing accomplishment by one of our clients, Gourmet Egypt. Now, with I-95 Dev, we're of course committed and focused on our client and partner success through support and innovation. Some of the services that we have are, of course, we'll start off on the left side, your consulting services, where we help you plan and strategize and help you consult within your business. Now, these consulting services are within e-commerce as well as ERP consulting services. We also can help with your UI, UX design, and of course, your digital marketing. We also then have your Magento services, everything from implementation, migration, upgrades, integration. We also have your customization. We can have your admin support, maintenance and support to back up your team, audit and optimizations to make sure that your site is operating to its fullest capability, and of course, training. And then we also have your support services for ERP support. Your ERP support, we can go in as a consultative approach, or we can even support your Microsoft ERP. We also have your quality assurance and your analytics and BI. Now at this time, I also want to call out, don't forget, within the consulting services, we also work with many partners, one of which was, again, on our call here today, Gary Smith from Nectar Bridge. He is one of our partners who absolutely can help 110% within your consulting services as a whole within your business as well. if you have any questions for him, please definitely put them in the question box and we'll be happy to address them as we go along the process. Now, we've also worked with an array of many different clients. We've worked with industries, helping them drive sales and streamline their businesses, and in regards to e-commerce integration, upgrades, implementations, and we've, as you can see here, we've worked with million-dollar businesses to billion-dollar businesses, from small to large businesses as well. Now, why I-95 Dev? Not only do we have almost 20 years of experience, we also have the best of the breed, experienced and certified Magento professionals. That's the most important part, certified Magento professionals. You also have dedicated resources. Every project that we take on, you'll have a dedicated resource. You'll know exactly who your project manager is, who your team, who to reach out to within your team. And most importantly, that doesn't change. So you'll have those dedicated resources to reach out to at any given time during your project. We're also integration experts. With integration, that's probably the most important part to help create that omni experience and having to avoid doing the double work of having to enter items within your e-commerce store and your ERP store. With that being said, you also have reliability. We operate with a full transparent engagement process, meaning you'll know exactly the time, the cost up front, so that you can immediately see the value for your money. And of course, because of that, we always offer superior service quality. As we mentioned in the very beginning, we're available in multiple time zones, thus giving us the 24/7 support that's needed. We can also act in an extension of your team. So for example, you may need some help in upgrading. We don't have to take on the full project for you. We can assist your internal team and act in it as an extension of your team in that manner as well. And of course, we also have our flexible client engagement. We have different types of engagements that we can work with as well. So with I-95 Dev, of course, you're in good hands. We're always, of course, on time, on budget, with no surprises. And with that being said, you can gain your confidence within your migration process, or any project for that matter. With understanding that you're in good hands, you'll also reduce the risk and time to market, which is huge. You'll have better execution to lower your TCO with a strategic plan to maximize the features. And of course, you'll be able to augment your migration team's capabilities through shared practices and methodologies within working with expert consultants and guidance. All right. The last page that I want to bring, and thanks again, guys, for sticking with me here. The last page, we absolutely also have created a Magento 2 upgrade complexity analyzer. This is something that we've worked with, and this basically is an estimation app to see how complex your current instance is and how much effort it takes needed to migrate to Magento 2. So if you just want to know high level of exactly what it takes to migrate your Magento 1 store to Magento 2 without committing to it, definitely give us a call and we'll be able to help with that as well. And in this aspect, so it'll give you a high level understanding of your Magento 1 store. And of course, give you a little bit of understanding of what it takes to upgrade to Magento 2. This is a specialized app that we've created that will plug into your existing Magento store to help with that complexity analyzer. Again, with any questions with this, please go ahead and reach out. Now, at this point, let me go ahead and gather the questions that we have and see what questions we have on point here. Go ahead and pull that up. Okay, so the first question that we have, we actually have a few questions, and thank you for that. I love that we have tons of questions coming in here. So one of the questions that we have is, what is the cost of Magento Commerce and Magento Commerce Cloud? Now, that's a great question. That one is a kind of a tricky question because the cost of the platform varies based on what you're looking for. As a matter of fact, and a major cost all of the chunk goes into the customizations, as most stores have a very specific requirement. So what I would recommend is that you definitely reach out to us offline so that we can talk about your high-level costs in regards to Magento Commerce and Magento Commerce Cloud. And we can really nail that down for you, okay? All right. The next question we have is, my Magento is fairly new, but still a 1.9 version. Do I need to migrate? Again, great question, and thank you for submitting that. It depends on what features you're looking for. However, Magento 2, as the name indicates, is a major jump from the older version. It's definitely better to migrate to Magento 2 for a better experience. And as Gary mentioned as well, the Magento 1 end-of-life platform is coming very, very, very speedily in the mid-2020 year. So something else to take in consideration, although your store may still be a new store. Jumping to Magento 2 would definitely still provide a much better experience for you. All right. Let's see here. Okay, this is another popular question that keeps popping up. So with this being said, the question here is, how many days of downtime do you expect during the migration process? That's a great question as well. Now with that, there is not really going to be any downtime for your store. So basically the store, and that's, nobody ever wants to deal with any downtime, so this question always pops up. The store is completely built on a staging server. So the entire site is developed and tested on the server. Once it's finished, the domain is now pointed and changed to the new server. So this might lead to maybe a few minutes of downtime, which can be, of course, done in the middle of the night or wherever the store traffic is, low to zero. But really, when we do the pointing to the new server, you're really not going to be expecting any downtime at all. Okay. Question that we have here are, what are your developer rates? It definitely varies. Again, this is a wonderful question. Please go ahead and refer to us offline, and we can definitely reach out to you offline in regards to our developer rates. We do have a few different rates, and the reason being is because some of those rates are within what capability you want within, whether it's a Magento platform that we're working with, and of course what you're looking for within the developer rate. So please reach out to us offline and we'll be able to give you an estimation on our developer rates on that. Another question that was asked within the question and answer box is the analyzer service free of charge? Yes, it is. It is free of charge. You can also download it. We've included the link to download the Analyze service. Otherwise, what we recommend is to reach out to us and we can help download it for you and also explain some of the features of what that complexity analyzer does. But absolutely it is, yes, it is free of charge whether you download it or our team downloads it. All right, it looks like we don't have any other questions coming in. So with that being said, I'd like to go ahead and conclude our webinar. I appreciate absolutely everyone's time that you've brought in regards to spending time with us here on this Magento 1 to Magento 2 migration process. As we mentioned, it's definitely a hot topic. I'd also like to thank Gary Smith one more time for joining our webinar. Gary, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, and looking forward to working with you again in the future. And again, thank you for everyone joining, and I'll go ahead and conclude this webinar.